Students, in lesson 2.1, we are going to be working on placing the first digit. Our essential question for this lesson is, how can you tell where to place the first digit in the quotient without dividing? Now remember, students, the word quotient is going to be the answer in a division problem. So let's read this blue box on the side to make sure that we're getting through all the key information, ideas, and points presented in this lesson. First, underline the sentence that tells you what you're trying to find. Next, circle the number you need to use. Last, how will you use these numbers to solve the problem? So let's start with the unlock the problem real world. Tanya has 8 purple daisies. In all, she counts 128 petals on her flowers. If each flower has the same number of petals, how many petals are on one flower? So I'm going to underline the sentence that is going to tell me what I'm trying to find. I know at the end of my problem, I have the question, and that's what I'm trying to find. If each of the flowers has the same number of petals, how many petals are on one flower? Next, I'm going to circle the number that I'm going to use. So I know that I'm going to circle 8 because that's how many purple daisies we have, and I'm going to circle 128, which how many petals are on all of her flowers. Last, it says, how will I use these numbers to solve the problem? Well, what we're going to say, students, is I will divide 128 petals by 8 flowers. So let's go to the key and let's unlock the problem. Divide 128 divided by 8. Step 1. Use an estimate to place the first digit in the quotient. So I look at 128. So if you look on the left-hand side of the page, students, what you'll see is that I listed the multiples of 8. So the first multiple of 8 is 8, then 16, then 24, then 32, and so on. So remember, the multiples of 8 means those are the answers or the products in the multiplication tables only related to the number 8. So when we estimate, notice you see we have 160 here. Some students in the past have looked at this problem and they're like, well, Miss G, how do you know that you're going to divide 160? Like, how did they come up with that number? So boys and girls, if you look at the multiples of 8, 8 is too low. But we see that 16, the next multiple, which is 16 divided by 8 is 2. We know that the compatible number, if we add a 0 there, would be 160. So think of it this way. If we know that 16 divided by 8 is 2, we know that we can divide out what 160 by 8 would be. And that's what we're going to do. We're first going to make an estimate to make sure that our answer is reasonable. So 160 divided by 8, and 8 doesn't get rounded because this is the amount of flowers she has. It doesn't change. So 8 doesn't get changed. So we know that if 16 divided by 8 is 2, we know 160 divided by 8 is 20. So our quotient at the end, boys and girls, should be very close to 20. So it says the first digit of the quotient will be in the tens place. And you're like, well, why is it going to be in the tens place? Because we know that if we look at 20, we know that there's a 0 in the ones place and that there's a 2 in the tens place. So that's going to make our life easier when we're placing the first digit. So now it says step 2, divide the tens. We take 1 and we've placed it, notice, in the tens place. So it says divide. 12 tens divided by 8 is 1, and then we second step multiply. 1 times 8 is 8. And notice we have 8 ones, so it's in the 8th place. So we have 12 minus 8 is 4. So we have to subtract. Notice we subtracted our 12 tens from our 8 tens, and we got 4 tens. So it says check. 4 tens cannot be shared among 8 groups without regrouping. There's just not enough to share. So what we're going to do is we're going to regroup in step 3. We're going to regroup any left tens as ones. Then we're going to divide the ones. So here we had 12 minus 8 was 4 tens, and now we have 48. We know we can divide 48 by 8, and we know that 6 times 8 is equal to 48. So it says 48 ones minus 48 ones would be 0. It says check. 0 ones cannot be shared among 8 groups. So remember our original answer, which was 20. Since 16 is close to the estimate of 20, the answer is reasonable. So there are 16 petals on one flower. And we can use inverse operations to check. We know if there's 16 petals on her 8 flowers, we can figure out how many total petals there are. So 6 times 8 is 48. We regroup the ones, and 1 times 8 is 8, plus the regrouped 4 is 12. So 128 petals is what we started out with, and notice when we use inverse operations check, we see that we got the dividend, the amount that we divided out. And that's really related to that flow chart which we did at the beginning of the vocabulary builder. We did 128 divided by 8, and we got 16. If we took 16 and we multiplied it by 8, we found that we got 128. So this is just a little way that we can use that flow chart to help check to make sure that our answer is correct. Next, we're going to do another example from this unlock. So it says, remember to estimate the quotient first. So it says to estimate 4,000 divided by 5. So when I look at this, I see that inside of that, a basic fact of 40 is hidden inside of 4,000. Now I know that 40 divided by 5 is 8, so I can use that information to help me out. 4,000 divided by 5 must be 800. And notice, boys and girls, if we work inversely, 800 times 5 would be 4,000. And notice, see how there's 2 zeros here? There should be 2 more zeros here. So we have 1, 2. This is connecting back to ideas that we did in chapter 1. So it says divide. Use place value to place the first digit of 4,236 divided by 5. Step 1, use place value to place the first digit. Look at the thousands. So let's look at 4. Can you share 4 thousands among 5 groups without regrouping? No, you can't. There's not enough. So now we're going to look at the hundreds. So it says 42 hundreds can be shared among 5 groups. So the first digit is going to be placed in the hundreds place. So the first digit is going to be in the hundreds place above the 2. And I just put a little box there to keep everyone's attention to that placement, because it's very important when reporting the quotient and the answer. So step 2, it says divide the hundreds. Divide 42 hundreds divided by 5. That's 8. Now it says to multiply. 5 times 8 hundredths gives us 40. So it says subtract 42 hundredths minus 40 hundredths would give us 2 hundredths. Now again, let's look at 2 hundredths. Can you share 2 hundredths among 5? No, it's not enough, so we're going to have to regroup. So in step 3, it says divide the tens. So we have 23 tens divided by 5, and we get 4. 5 times 4 tens equals 20. Then we subtract 23 tens minus 20 tens. is equal to 3 tens. Check. 3 tens cannot be shared among 5 groups without regrouping. So now, lastly, we're going to divide the ones. So now we have 30. So 36 ones divided by 5, and we get 7 ones. 5 times 7 ones equals 35. So we have 36 ones minus 35 ones, and we get 1 1 that cannot be shared among 5 groups. So 4,236 divided by 5 is 847, remainder 1. So whatever cannot be shared is left as a remainder. This mathematical practices math talk we'll work on in class, but I want you to think about it as you've completed this lesson. It says, explain how you know if your answer is reasonable. Now remember, students, going back to the beginning of this problem, what we did was we estimated and we used place value in this second example, but in this first example, we use estimation. So you can use estimation or place value to help you place the first digit. But remember, without estimating and without using place value, it's very difficult to place the first digit in a quotient. So this is going to be a part of your step before you even start the division. Make sure you take really good notes on placing the first digit.